fighter, like you. If you hurt her...
I'm not going to hurt her until you're here to see it.
Let's unmask this fucker.
All your friends died for just being near you.
Where is my daughter? Tatum, listen to me. He's trying to find another way in. We're gonna do this together. You're gonna have to shoot him through the wall. Where? To the right of the door. Shoot him now! Do it now! Oh, you got it. He's dead. You need to make sure you shoot him in the head.
I'm gonna burn it all down.
Mother...
Alright then, so thankfully for me, I will not be talking about Scream 7 alone, right? Ricardo unfortunately couldn't make it for this episode. That's okay. So with me, I have the incomparable Sommerleigh Pollonais, aka Movie Junkie for Life.
Aw. Thank you. Always happy to be here.
Yeah, of course. And it's a good thing that you are here because, if you remember, Summer's list for 6 Reels Deep, she loves the Scream franchise, right? It was there, I made the joke, even though I was wondering if it was this or Conjuring, but, the point that, you were trying to make then was that both franchises are, consistent, right? But before we get to Scream...
I feel like they both do have done so much for the horror genre. So I like to give them their flowers for that.
Right. Exactly, right? Now, I find it so funny, right? Because, right after we talked about that, I finally watched, about a few weeks after we recorded that episode, right? Yeah, I finally watched Conjuring last, right? Because, Halloween was coming up. And I was like, I could see why people didn't really like it, people thought it was, a really, lackluster way to close the franchise off.
Oh, yeah, that's definite weak sauce, yeah.
Yeah, it was weak sauce, but at the same time, I was like, if you were planning to binge it, if you were having a movie marathon, you could run this one, but it might just be in the background and people might be, looking for drinks or whatever. But yeah.
I do feel like I was hoping they would have brought back James Wan to direct. I think the director's name is Michael Chavez. I might be wrong. He directed Because for La Llorona, which is it was so weak in terms of the response and how much it did at the box office that they unofficially said, oh, well, it's not part of the Conjuring franchise, but it is, and I feel like they should own it, even though it didn't do that well. At the end of the day, you're going to have good, you're going to have bad in between there, and them trying to distance themselves from it, and yet you're still using the same director going forward. I mean, what is that about? But overall, I mean, Conjuring, you can't argue with the bottom line, and the movies have done phenomenally at the box office. I would love to see in the future, I know they're planning on television series, and I would love to see a director with maybe a little more bite to him, like a Mike Flanagan, somebody like that, take over the franchise. I think they would do, especially somebody like Mike Flanagan, what he did with the Haunting of Hill House. I feel like he would absolutely kill the Conjuring franchise as a television series. But we can't always get what we want. So.
Yeah, that's true. So back to Scream, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will just do quick preamble and then you could get into synopsis, right? And I shall let you all know, folks, we will get into some spoilers. Well, not too much spoilers, but this one particular moment that I could not shake off while I was watching this, and I have to address this, right? So, I will give the spoiler warning when that time reaches, right? But yeah. Scream, right? We will eventually celebrate the 30th anniversary of the first film, right? We will do that. Wow. Slight spoiler, this will be one of our episodes of 6 Reels Deep, so you can look out for that, right? But yeah, 30 years have passed, right? And now we have 7 films. There was also a TV series that I was reminded of a few days ago, but I don't know if I had the time to watch that. But anyway, when it comes to the movies themselves, right? I enjoy them for the most part, right? Well, I have fun with them, I should say, right? For me, and everybody will agree, I guess, first one still the best, right? You know, Wes Craven just
Yes.
left one franchise and created a new one and really like showed that in the 90s he still have a lot to say when it came to horrors, right? You know, to horror movies, right? The sequels are decent, you know, even though the quality kind of dips, you know, with each film, right? There was a point in time, believe it or not, where I actually thought 3 was the most amazing, like, sequel ever in the Scream franchise.
Wow.
Yeah, like the whole Hollywood aspect of it blew my mind, right? But then, like, when I recapped it, now I was like, nah, that don't hold up as much as I expected it to, but I still like it. But I know like that one and then the fourth one is the ones that the fans hate so much. I saw them, like, yeah, they're not bad, you know. Like, well, sorry, they're far from great, but they're not bad, you know. So that's how I feel about the franchise. Like, you know, the subsequent entries may not be as great as the first one, but they still have a lot to say. They still have, you know, they keep you entertained, right? They keep you on the toes, right? So when we had Scream 5, or Scream as they call it now in 2022, which I'll never forget, you were involved in our chat with Ricardo about it, right? I saw that in theaters. That was actually the first Scream film I saw in theaters. I had a lot of fun with that one. It put me on to Melissa Barrera. Actually, no, I lied, because she was in a great musical film called In the Heights, which I need to rewatch, even though I saw that film back in
Oh,
COVID
I haven't
times, right?
seen it.
Yeah, you should see it. It's great. Love that film, right? Yeah. But yeah, she was great. Well, Melissa was great. She became a scream queen. Sorry, instantly. Jenna Ortega became an instant scream queen as well too, and that's before she even became Wednesday Addams, right? But yeah, I really enjoyed that. It felt like a return to form. The requel angle make a lot of sense, and just how they were poking fun at these revival you know, these revival sequels like Jurassic World and stuff like that. That made a lot of sense, right? For whatever reason, I did not see 6 in theaters. I don't know why. I don't know what happened, but I didn't get a chance to see it in theaters. I did.
Right. Okay.
No, sorry. I saw it in preparation for this show. I was like, this is really good, though. There's a couple of things
Six is really good, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, it's just, when it came to the reveals, it was like, listen, I want to take this serious, you know, and I'll bring this up with this one here. I want to take this serious, you know, but come on, man. Like everybody hate these people. Like, oh, because you're related to Billy Loomis, that means I must kill you. That's what it is. Like, come on, man. But how Samantha and Tara team up against the villains, though, was so incredibly badass. But I was like, what? Like, this so dread, right? And then as Joshua mentioned too, just as a wrap up here, just the brutality when it came to Ghostface though, and them kills, but like you feel them stabs, but you feel where characters are hurt or in pain, but you feel that, right? Wow. Legacy characters, I'll talk about that with 7 as well too. In particular, one person who I thought was dead, but you know, the fans would say, well, did you see her die? Did they come back and say that she was dead? No, that means that she may come back. And we'll talk about that with 7, right? But the red flags, though, for 7, I took notice of. And I was thinking about those while I was watching this show here, right? While I was watching 6. Yeah, Melissa being kicked out of 7 because of some pro-Palestine stuff that she said. And then also Jenna Ortega leaving because, Melissa wasn't there, right? And then Melissa saying, well, you know, she felt like the 2 films kind of told its story. And I absolutely agree. I think that 5 and 6 make for a great double feature. You could kind of stop the series right there. It was like, no, well, you know, we have to continue on, man, because we have to do the trilogy thing again, man. So that's what it is. But then the director who was involved, he busts out as well too. So yeah, now we have the writer of the first script. Sorry, the one, Kevin Williamson, right? The one who wrote the script for the first one, who created the characters.
And wrote. Well, wrote.
Right, because Wes Craven thinking, right? Doing directorial duties here, right? Well, and I guess before I shut up, well, as a shut up, right, you could answer this question for me, right, since you know more about Scream than I did, right? Is this is the first time he's directing a Scream film, right?
Um, I believe I know he's been involved in 1, 2. I can't remember about 3 and 4, and he did writing duties on all of those. I don't think did he direct the first one,
No, no, no.
the second one. Sorry,
No. Well.
let me.
I think Wes directed the first
Because I don't
three.
think, I think he's just been involved in the writing. No, yeah. Because I think that's it. I think it's just he was involved in the writing. I think this might be the first time he's directing one of them.
Okay. And one more thing before I shut up, and you could tell me about how you feel about the franchise, and you could jump into this one, right? Yeah, I didn't realize this, but apparently, like, this movie wasn't even screened for American critics. So, and it was like little to
And we
no
all
push.
know,
Yeah, for
we
this.
all know that that usually is a huge red flag
That's
right
right.
there.
That's right.
So,
There was little
mhm.
to no promotion for this, so it's almost as if Paramount and Sky Glass was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if people should see this and talk about it. But I saw a couple of early reviews like, all right, I know exactly what I can get into. So yeah, I went yesterday time of me recording this, so it's. The audience, it wasn't a packed audience, but at least there were people, and I love the fact that they were reacting to things. That's what I wanted. I want people to giggle and be like,
Yes,
"Don't,
I
why you
had a
ship it
similar
for that?
audience.
Yeah, why you open the door for? That's what we want.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
I had a similar audience, and I always find like when you have that kind of feedback, it does make the viewing more entertaining. You know,
that's true.
it does help add an energy that wouldn't be there because I'm pretty certain if I saw this streaming, it would have gotten 1 point less than I've given it in my score. So yeah,
Right.
it absolutely that I had fun with the audience that saw this as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so someone take it away. Yeah, your love for the franchise. You could touch on that, and then of course you could jump into 7.
Right. Well, I actually, I'm old enough and I had the pleasure of seeing Scream in cinema. And I remember there was really nothing like it. And this is from somebody who I grew up on slashers. It's absolutely, it's not my introduction to horror, but Friday the 13th is a franchise that I hold near and dear to my heart, even with all its flaws. And Nightmare on Elm Street after that. And just there, most slashers were so wash, rinse, repeat at that point in time. They really weren't doing anything new. And then Scream came, and like Cabin in the Woods, it did something that we'd never seen before. It was a horror movie that knew it was a horror movie, that knew its audience, and was embracing all of that, and still managed to be a horror movie. And that was mind blowing. It really was phenomenal. And something new, and it added a whole new life to specifically the slasher genre that we hadn't seen in horror. And then going forward, I actually like, well, I don't like 3, but I like 2, and a lot of people consider 2 to be quite weak as well. And, I'll be honest, I don't have issues with 4 as much as most people do, but I will, I concede to the fact that it's not as memorable as the others. And then when they came in with the recall, as you called it, I didn't really know how I felt about that. I'll be honest. I missed the legacy characters, and I was probably being a bit biased. I think I need to rewatch it, but I wasn't the hugest fan of it. Granted, I did enjoy that it upped the brutality of Ghostface. It made the character a bit. The character seemed a bit more unhinged at that point in time. And then 6 came, and 6 blew me away. I'm not gonna lie. Even though I have my issues with 6, for instance, I do not know how you can be stabbed that many times and survive it. I'm not a doctor,
Thank
but
you, thank you, thank you.
I saw characters get stabbed multiple times, and then we're laughing about it. And by the end of the movie, I thought I was insane. But The energy was up, the tension was there. It was a lot of fun. And then it also managed to do what Scream 1 did, which is give us characters that you want to root for. You know, there was enough development there with those characters, I guess because they were coming from Scream 5, that, you know, I cared what was happening to them. So I was really on board for 7 in a big way when I thought the cast of 6 was going to return. Because why do a requel if you're going to go back into the legacy well? Nothing against Nev Campbell, and I'll get into that when we start talking about Scream 7. But when you've reached this far into a franchise, it does get redundant and a tad boring seeing the same people survive the same situations over and over again. And so heading into 7, I was super excited for what it was originally supposed to be. And then as you listed, all of the issues that happened and basically upended the original plans they probably had for that story. And we ended up with what we ended up. But overall, as a franchise, I do have a lot of respect for what they managed to do with it. Because if I put the Scream franchise up against any other slasher franchise, it really is head and shoulders above them. And like I said, that's coming from somebody who I love Friday the 13th. I have been eagerly awaiting. It's the franchise that I most want to see revived and brought back. And yet, I will be the first to admit that Scream, because it touches on those cliches, because it has always been, for the most part, always been very self-aware of the fact that it's an homage to horror overall. They do wonderful things. Every single one touches on different horror cliches and different elements of why we watch horror movies and why horror characters do the things they do. And that has always kept it interesting up until we'll get into 7. 7, like I said, we're back with the OG. We're here with Nev Campbell back as Sydney Prescott, now Sydney Evans. And she's married, she has a family, she has settled into this quaint little town. And of course, you know, Ghostface can't have a happy Sydney. That just cannot exist. So Ghostface decides to go after his prize, which is to get Sydney back in the game and to basically torture her and prove that she is at her best when she's going up against him, when she's going through all of this trauma. But to add to that, now she has a teenage daughter named Tatum that she named after her best friend who died in the first movie. Problem being is, as a parent, she has done her best to protect Tatum by not giving her any information and not preparing her. So, you know, what they say is if you forget the past, you're doomed to repeat it. Ghostface is now targeting her family, and Tatum is not as prepared as Sydney. So they have to, with the help of others, of course, try to unmask Ghostface one last time, I guess, and in the process see who can survive to the end.
Okay. Alright, so I'll begin, right? I'll start off with the good, right? I'm a charitable man, I'll start with the good, right? The kills, right? You know, the reason why people watch these shows in the first place. Yes, the kills are satisfying, right? They are very visceral, right? Especially
very inventive.
Yeah, and very inventive. Although there's one involving a bear tap, if you call it that, logically makes no sense. And I watch it. I think about it like, listen, I see what they're going for, you know, but nah, I should have thought out way more, dude. That makes no sense.
That's the thing with horror kills. They don't really have to make sense physics-wise or biology-wise, but it just has to make you go, oh, damn.
Yeah, it made me go, oh, damn, you know, but then afterwards I'm like, alright, still in, you know, spoiler-free territory. If the wound was another spot, I'd understand. Alright, that's it, right? Yeah, so the kills are very, you know, engaging, right? They keep you on the toes. Yes, I didn't really school, but there were moments where I was like, ooh, you know me like that, right? Ghostface is still a vicious mofo. Boy, I don't know, boy. It's just the mindset it must take to have that voice box and that mask on
All right.
and grab whatever, blade you could and just do those kind of things. But it's like, wow, right? Nev Campbell is solid, right? Not the biggest Nev Campbell fan, but in terms of her character, Sidney Prescott, she works, right? She holds the show down, right? There's somebody else who pops up, but I'll leave that in the spoiler section, right? I did not expect to see Joel McHale in this as well, right? He plays Nev's wife, right? Sorry, Nev's husband. I didn't expect that one coming. It was I rolled my eyes slightly when you realize when he was a cop, but it's like, okay, it's my boy Joel McHale, right? I do like that we finally get to see the kids. Well, we see I think we see two of Sydney's daughters. Because we never really saw them at all, right? But the one to really focus on is Tatum, right? I'm not familiar with Isabel May, but like this is the first time I'm seeing her. I will talk about her in a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool at least seeing the oldest daughter be involved in all of this, right? Her friends, I'll get to them in a bit as well. I will say that one of them actually, if you're familiar with Gen V, comes watching Bad Face, right? He's a guy, he's a German, right? He plays Lucas. I watching the guy's face, like, man, that's a dude from Gen V, though. What? Okay. And it took me a while to pick up on it, right? He just has this very boyish face, right? The music is very good as well. I didn't know that Marco Beltrami worked with it. That was really interesting that they got him for it as well, right? The directing is serviceable for the most part. Didn't really blow me away, as far as like the angles and whatnot, right? And cinematography is fine for what it is, right? So, sorry to say so, but that's all the praise I could carpet right now, right? So for me, this has to be the most generic Scream film I have seen, like, period. This is just so by the numbers. It just really feels like rinse, repeat. And it's so funny that it's in a Scream franchise and we got the one entry that is rinse and repeat, right? Because, like, at least, okay, so I know that there are people, right, believe it or not, who are not fans of the franchise, right? And I think the main reason why it makes a lot of sense, right? Because they think that, at the end of the day, it's still a slasher film. Like, why are we making such a big deal about it, right? Outside the first one, of course, right? Because yes, it is a formula that's being shown with these, that's being used with these subsequent films, right? Let's be real here. It is, right? But what makes the sequels work is what they bring, what new thing they bring to the table, what new characters they bring to the table, what new commentary on horrors and franchises they bring to the table, right? And that's why I felt like the sequels did very well. Even 5 and 6 are your typical slasher films, right? But they bring something new in terms of how Gen Z looks at, legacy characters and, revival films and all these kind of things, right? That's why you have, the very likable, Mindy, right? Who pops up again to how she and her brother Chad are worked in. I'll get to that in a bit, right? Yeah. Yeah. So that's what made 5 and 6 work for me, right? But in particular, why 5 and 6 work for me is that they brought new characters, right? And they were the progeny of legacy characters, right? Listen, no disrespect to Isabel May, right? But as Tatum, right? As the daughter of Sidney Boy, her character, that is, right, was just so flat though, so one-dimensional. Like, if you were to put me at gunpoint and tell me just give me a character breakdown of who she is. All I can just tell you is she's the daughter of Sidney and she goes to drama club. That's really it. That's all we know. And in one scene, she finds your mother jacket and they make it out to be such a big deal. I'm like, no, it's not a big deal. Why the movie is making this out to be a big deal? I don't understand, right? Her friends, unfortunately, are just as flat and just as one-dimensional, though. And it's a shame, too, because 5 and 6 gave us new characters and they gave us enough time for them, for us as the viewers to care about them, right?
Take care.
Yes. unfortunately, they are meant to be cannon fodder. Yes, they are meant to be victims. I understand. Like, look, in part 6, we had Minnie's girlfriend, right? This Asian girl who unfortunately was just
Yes.
there to be killed, right? But even when she was there, she had a little bit of characterization. I mean, come on, and you cared about her, especially that moment when she was like trying to escape from the apartment with the ladder. Like, you cared, right? You cared enough, right?
Yeah.
And this one is like,
Yes.
okay, well, one of them, she parents, I think she father, whoever, work at a pizza place, and this next one, the same guy from Gen V, he real obsessed with true crime podcasts. I'm like, okay, that's all they give him.
Like the most obvious red herring in existence. But
I know, right? Yeah, that's really all they give him. And for me, though, it's just like just looking back at the other films, right? At least there was some set piece, some big, setting where they could make the commentary on the franchise of what we will see, right? Like in the last one, we had the memorabilia cinema, right? Where all these stab films and memorabilia,
Yeah.
was there. That made a lot of sense. This one, we're going to Sydney's house. We're doing the house thing again because slight spoiler, yeah, the house from the previous film, Randy's house is burnt, right? Okay, that was promising, all right.
Yeah.
But outside that, we're going back to the same house thing, and then we actually had a cool moment where Ghostface was in the house and he was attacking Sydney and her family. That was really interesting, right? But then we have to have the final battle take place in the house as well. And then as far as the reveal of who the two killers are, because yes, we're doing the whole two thing again. Yeah, listen, sorry to say this, that made no sense. There's I'll get to this in the spoiler section, right? There's a running tagline about a specific way how the character is masking his identity. That's all I'll say in the spoiler-free section. And then when you reveal, well, it shows what it is, right? But then when the person says, hey, I'm the guy who's been doing this, the man had the goal to like say, well, I used to do this. And then a character literally had the other Ghostface literally had a Superman say, shut up. I was talking here, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, that's right, because nobody cares because it's stupid. It's so stupid. I'm sorry, right?
It's very Scooby-Doo. Very, very Scooby-Doo.
Very Scooby-Doo. And you hit the nail on the head, Summer, because this is where we reach now, where the only appealing thing about this show is, now let's see who the monster really is. Oh man, it's old man Willie? Oh man, it's red herring? Like, no man, that's not what it's about. And last point I'll say, right, before you get to spoiler-free thoughts, right? And it is so painfully clear that the studio, the creators, the filmmakers had to retcon certain things because you could tell that they wanted to continue the Samantha and Tara Carpenter stories, right? They really wanted to continue those, right? But it's when Jenna busts out, boy, I feel they didn't see that one coming because they could have just been, oh, well, okay, Jenna stayed, alright, so you'll just focus on her, right? Because she's backable, but when she busts out, it's like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? So I feel it's like that, right? Yeah, I feel it's that, boy. So to go back...
I definitely think that's what happened too. Yeah, so, it's like, okay, we can lose Melissa, big deal. But Jenna, that was a hard blow.
So to go back to Sydney and then give her daughter something to do, but then again she's just so bland. And I mean, yes, she's put in moments of danger, okay, I understand, but like still there's nothing to her character outside of the fact that she is Cindy's daughter, right? And the show had the goal to play it off like, Cindy should have been in the last film because if you remember, Nev Campbell was complaining about not getting enough paid, so that's why she was not there. And the show acted as if, you were supposed to be in New York, and that's why we're doing all this. It makes no sense. I'm sorry. But yeah, at the end of the day, this just came as this by the numbers Scream film that just had nothing to say except just trudging along, trying to justify its own existence. Because I mean, no surprise anymore, we're gonna get an 8-1. And I mean, after how this one has been received so far, I mean, the only way there's only one way for this franchise to go, which is up, right? But yeah, man, this was just unfocused. This was uninspired. They really should have sat down and figured this thing out properly.
All the uns. It was just
Yeah. And I'll just make one last point before I shut up, right? Listener, I am all for anniversaries, right? You know me, right? This is the heart of Six Reels Deep, right? I said this at the beginning. The first film is turning 30 years old. I understand. They want to strike while the iron is hot, right? They want to put a movie on the year of the anniversary. I understand that, right? But you know, you could have just put all 6 movies in a Blu-ray box set. I'd buy that in a heartbeat, you know. And I would have been okay owning 3 and 4. I don't care what nobody say. I want to own all these films, right? Well, except for this one, because I don't want to own this. But yeah, man, they really should have just put a pin on this and said, okay, maybe next year, you know, when we figure out everything, then that will be 7, right? But I think trying to, it also feels like they just cobbled together a bunch of elements because they really wanted to make this and have it come out specifically in 2026. But no, they really should have thought this out much more, in my opinion, right? So yeah, y'all thought 3 was bad, y'all thought 4 was bad. Oof, well, I'm sorry to inform you all about this. I'm not even a big Scream fan, but no, this one's the worst. But more on that to be spoiler, because there's one particular thing that I really want to address, right? But Summer, tell me how wrong I am.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. And I agree with you completely when you said they should have put a pin in it. It definitely feels like a lot of studios stepping in and saying, well, oh no, we got to do it now because the anniversary, you know, instead of, you know, this is a franchise that I know, like you said, there are people that don't like it, but I know more people who do than I know that don't. And a lot of people who have a fun place in their hearts for it because it was their introduction to horror and their introduction to the slasher, genre with Scream. So Scream 7, it feels like such a slap in the face for fans in general for how lazy and hobbled together it feels. But like you, I'm going to be nice. I'm going to say the nice things first. And I'll start by saying that I think at this point, Nev Campbell could play Sydney Prescott, Sydney Evans, whatever you want to call her. I call her Sydney Prescott because, you know, that to me, that's her final girl name. Um, she can play this character in her sleep, you know, and she is this one of, if not the strongest, she is one of the strongest elements of this movie. Without her and just these people, oh my gosh, I don't know what this is if they did that. So she plays the character really well. She does play strong where she needs to, vulnerable where she needs to. There's a scene that we'll get into in spoilers where she is trying to reach her daughter, and I'll just say that. And I thought, and she's on the phone with her, and I just thought that scene, you know, it shows how far Sydney has come in terms of I now have other people I need to worry about, and I'm trying to protect them as well as protect myself. So I think she did a really good job in the role, as well as somebody else who we'll talk about when we get into spoiler territory, who I also believe, if they went in a different direction, if they made that person more of a focus and they didn't go in the direction with it that they did, where we see in the reveal, I think this could have been a much better ending. That said, Isabel May as Tatum. My goodness. The audience I watched this with was basically yelling at her the entire time. Poor girl. I know the whole point is she is weak because she has not been taught to protect herself in these situations. And I guess if you look at it from a realistic point of view, that you know, people would make the same kind of mistakes that she made. But the actress isn't given much to work with. The character is written a tad too weak for me. And another thing that distracted me, I don't know how you felt about this, but I found the fact that there's little to no resemblance between her and Nev Campbell. I don't know. I found that distracting. And maybe that was just me.
Oh,
I
you
wish
know
they had
that's a
picked
good
an
point.
actress.
That's a good point to do.
Yeah, yeah. I wish they had picked someone that looked like she could pass for Nev Campbell's daughter. And that I just found it really distracting for some reason. It made me not like the character as much, but as silly as that may seem, in the role. But on the good hand too, I did find the kills to be some of the best that the franchise has ever had. It as over the top as you said, we talk about that a certain kill in the restaurant. As over the top as it is, I appreciated the brutality. I think my favorite would be there's one earlier on that takes place with McKenna Grace. Her character Hannah is on stage, and again, we leave that for the spoilers. Those were really interesting. It were really hard to watch for how slow it went. So it seemed extra mean, and this is what they were touting with this movie, that we were gonna get a more brutal Ghostface, a Ghostface who wasn't playing around, that sort of thing. And we did see that with the kill. So at least in that respect, they did keep their promises. I'll also say on the good end, I think the pacing is solid. The movie never really slows down, and that's kind of what you want when you're talking about a slasher where there's a lot of stalking and killing going on. But it also, maybe because they were so focused on that, we end up with these underdeveloped characters, these characters that are not really, that are poorly written. But those stalking and kill scenes, the opening one, I mean, I'm on the fence with the opening scene. I think that we've gotten much better ones in the past, but I did like the way it ended. And, I feel like just overall, there was a lot of that for me. There's a lot of seesawing in this where I would have something good happen and then it'd be like, oh, but these characters are so bland. Oh, but that kill was so interesting. Oh, but the cinematography is so bland. Oh, but that scene was so fun. It just kept going back and forth with no real consistency, which kind of takes me into my cons because, like I said, I am like you. I don't have much good to say about this, unfortunately, because while the premise is quite interesting, I do like the idea of, okay, so we have a grown up Sydney and, she has a family and she has more to lose. She has this daughter that she never prepared because she never told her about her past. That stuff is interesting. There's something there. There's something you can work with there, I feel, if the characters were better written, and especially the character of Tatum. But outside of that, there is nothing here. This is the thinnest, as you say, most by the numbers generic story Scream has ever done. And Scream is the franchise you go to for, okay, this is what's happening in horror right now, so this is what we're gonna play with. That's what Scream has always done. You had in Scream 2, the focus was sequels. A sequel always has to be bigger, the body count needs to be bigger, the kills need to be badder. And they touched on that. They did it. Say what you will about 2 and 3, like you said, the Hollywood angle for 3. That stuff is really interesting because it is an aspect of what goes on behind the scenes to create these horror movies. You had it with the requel. Like I said, Scream 5 is not a favorite of mine, but I do respect what they did in touching on, well, we've got the reboot going on, and this is what you would do if it was a reboot. What were they trying to do here? There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing except for maybe the whole AI thing, which we'll get into. There's nothing inventive here. There's nothing that actually touches on horror. This is a by the book, basic bitch slasher movie. And that is absolutely the most disappointing element of this. So we have that, and then you add to that these underdeveloped characters that I really couldn't care whether they lived or died. And the reveal of Ghostface being possibly the most predictable. I figured it out very early on, and I think most people will as well. It was the easiest to figure out. And I kept saying to myself, I really wish they would move away from there always has to be two, right? Give me five. I don't know. Give me the whole town. The whole town is corrupted. At one point, I was like, how cool would it be if the whole town is in on it? I don't know, 80% of the town is
That's
in
not a
on
bad
it.
idea,
How
no.
cool would it be?
Yeah.
Right? I at one point that did enter my mind. I was like, this could be really cool. Make it that the whole town is messed up like that. But that, of course, that's not the way they went. We end up with these very generic, really boring villains. And that monologuing, oh my God, it was like watching, like I said, it was like watching a bad episode of Scooby-Doo. As a matter of fact, I feel like I shouldn't even call Scooby's name in this because that at least is fun. So yeah, that's where I stand as well. I feel like they should have backed off. They should have taken the time to do this right. They had a strong premise, but they absolutely wasted it in every way, shape, or form.
Alright, so spoiler warning, you've been warned, EU, right? So yes, I'm not even gonna bother to rank death scenes in this, but yes, that scene which you mentioned earlier with the girl who is at the theater rehearsal, and
Theater.
yeah, and she gets suspended. Sorry,
Yeah.
she's suspended above, you know what I mean, and being swung around, through the device, and
Yes.
Ghostface,
That's
like,
actually,
yeah, that's the best scene. That moment really was like,
yeah.
ooh, yeah.
I'm looking back on the Scream franchise. I realize anybody who is blonde, you tend to get a particularly vicious death. So it was
That's
Tomorrow Weaving previously. It's like,
oh
once you're
yes,
blonde, you tend to go out here. Drew Barrymore being the first. It's like, what is it with blondes and Scream? You have to die viciously.
yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. Before I get to the problem what I have, the main problem that people have with the show, right? That really had to rate ugly head this time, right? So after touch on this whole AI thing, right? So okay, I understand that maybe there was somebody on Reddit who was probably like fiending for the day that Matthew Lillard would finally show his face, return to the franchise, right? Because in part 5, his nephew, whatever, got killed outside some bar. I was like, all right, okay. But yeah, seeing Matthew Lillard there, like, just see the actor there was pretty cool, right? I'll give the show credit that, right?
Yes.
But
And you could tell he was having a lot of fun with the role. He brought the most energy
yeah. And at
to
his
that part.
age,
Yeah.
that's how crass he was, but it worked, right? Just very intimidated, right? But
Yeah.
a part of me was like, but wait, no, but is it really him? And then they had to bring up AI and deepfake, and I'm like, okay, well, this is Paramount trying to make this film relevant now. Like, okay.
Right?
Um,
He was so lazy. I mean, just bring
I
him
know.
back. If you're gonna go that route, bring him back as Ghostface.
Yeah,
Is that really so hard? Because listen, at the end of the day, it's a horror movie, and we as horror fans have been programmed that the villain survives the unsurvivable, right? So we would buy into a television fell on his head and he somehow survived. You know what? We buy it. We don't need to overthink it if it's entertaining enough, if he's charismatic enough. We don't care, right? So I feel like they should have just stuck with that instead of the whole AI thing. I'm not going to lie. It pissed me off. I feel like they should have just gone that route. It would have made for a spectacular ghost face.
Yeah, agreed. Because in the film, you find out that he was alive. It's just that he lost his memory. So because you find this out because you went to this particular mental institute and learn about it, right?
But I don't think he was ever alive. I think they made up the whole thing to mess with their heads. I think that was the whole point. They stole the body and whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the
I
show,
don't think he was ever alive.
yeah, because the show was toying with that from the jump, right? Stu is dead, right? So when it got to the review, right, you realize that the same guy, he's not even a doctor. He's just somebody who just works at the institute, right? He's not
I
even
think
a
like an
janitor.
orderly. Yeah, he was played like Ethan Embry. I actually really like Ethan Embry. I think he's a solid actor. I don't know why they would pull him in just to waste him, but It is
don't
what
know
it is,
neither.
I guess.
Yeah, I do agree. He's good. And even Anna Camp is good as well. Right? It's just when she had to play Crazy Boy, like okay, she could do Crazy, right? I've seen her do Crazy before, but when she had to force herself to do Crazy, like she does here, it's like, oh no. But it's when
Yeah,
homie look to talk about, hey, I used to work with Google AI. I like.
It's the worst villain monologue we've ever gotten. It's the worst.
No wonder her partner had to stop. No wonder his partner had to stop him and say, "Shut up, I'm talking here." That is so
Yeah.
stupid, dude. I was a
But
Google AI technician, man.
even her reasoning for hunting down Sydney,
Made no
it's so
sense.
weak.
Yeah,
It's so ridiculous.
you were inspired by
It's
Sydney's
absolutely
resilience,
ridiculous.
but
Right?
now
Why weren't you
because
in New
yeah,
York?
why
Like,
weren't
what
you in
the
New York?
actual hell?
Yeah.
I
What
mean,
was Anna Camp's character
really?
in New York? No. So what does it matter if she was
Right.
there or not?
Exactly.
Ah.
Exactly.
And it
It
just
made zero sense.
yeah, and it just feels like Paramount assuming this is how the fans felt because Nev was in it, right? And fun fact, Nev actually is an executive producer in this, so I don't know if she wanted to see this, like if
Yeah.
she just want to troll jab at Paramount, like if he had given him money, I'd have been there, no. But why did the show have to harp on the
Yeah.
fact that she wasn't in this? I don't understand, right? But yeah,
What kills me is because apparently Nev didn't want to come back, and they said Kevin. I think how it was something along the lines of they had to convince her to come back, and she was like, "Well, I will come back if Kevin comes back to write it," and that sort of thing. I think she convinced him to direct it as well. So there's a lot of that going on here, and it's not for the betterment of the movie. It's nostalgia, really. I don't know, because Kevin has been away from the franchise for so long. Maybe he's not the person to direct it. What happened to the person who did Scream 6? Why not bring them back? It's just. Oh, I think you said he walked away. I'm not right.
so it was the same two guys. It's the same two guys who work on Ready or Not, I think, right? They worked on 5 and 6. They left when they were done with 6. And somebody came in. And then after what he saw with Melissa and Jenna, he bust out too.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like that. Yeah, right? And one last point about AI, right? It one of the weirdest pieces of diversion I see in the franchise yet, right? In a long while, right? They try to set it up now that Ben, right, who is Tatum's boyfriend, actually had
Yeah.
skills in AI. So he was showing, oh, this is how they would have done it, right? But like he showed himself
Yes.
like
But
he
in
filmed
the
himself
most
on
psycho way possible.
yeah, so he filmed so he films himself in front of a green in front of a green screen, right? Or green cloth, whatever it is, trying to mimic what
Yeah.
Matthew Lillard's character was doing, being all intimidating to Sydney, right? Trying to make the
Yes.
audience feel as if wait, was it Ben? And then no, right? Tatum, in her infinite wisdom, grabs his MacBook and hits him twice in the head. Blow, blow, and runs away, right? And then she runs into Ben and like hugs him, like, it wasn't me, I was just testing it out. Like, oh, I'm sorry, Ben. Like, what? Like,
Right?
that was so sloppily done. Like, why make him
It
some
was.
tech
It
guru
was.
out of the blue? They never established that, right? So the thing that all right. So before I get to this thing, right? Courtney Cox. She is not the elephant in the room, though. She's not the elephant in the room. I'll get to the elephant in a minute, right? Yeah. When she came back, boy, I was like, listen, like I understand in part 6, he didn't want to show me that she did it. It about, she had a weak pulse. So, but in my head, I was like, wait, but they never followed back on her at the very end of the movie. I didn't think about it. I
Yeah.
just thought that, oh, well, she did. I was thinking about that when the credits
Yeah.
roll now. Like, okay, well, she did. All right. But yeah, she pops back up and Mindy and oh gosh, Chad, her
Chad, yeah.
her underlings now, so like they helping she with the camera work. Like that's how you're gonna squeeze in these characters though, like really? Like
Right. And another aspect of that too, like I was thinking with the Courtney Cox's character. Like, why not make her the villain? Because Dewey is dead. She would have that motive of, if you were there and a way, she would have a reason because they've always had this weird frenemy relationship. So my thinking was that you could have done it in a way where she became, broken by what had happened. I mean, after she could only be chased and involved in murder so many times before it fractures your brain. And I felt like it would have also made for a good story. Another option they could have gone with is making her come after Sydney. Even I don't know if who would be her second because every Ghostface always has to have two faces. But I felt like that could have been a good way to deal with Gail. Instead, you bring her in and she seems so frail and so weak. And that's not Gail Weathers. The whole
Yeah.
point is Gail Weathers is a fighter, So it would have made more sense to make Gail Weathers a villain at this point than it would have made like what that nonsense they did in the I Know What You Did Last Summer revamp,
Oh,
where they made Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character the bad guy.
right, right.
It did that to me. Gail earned that. At this point, Gail would have earned it, and always having that kind of antagonistic relationship with Sydney, which they even kind of played on here, where Sydney said she doesn't trust anyone. Tatum is the last person she ever trusted, and you saw where that hurt Gail. I mean, there's so much to tap into there. You could have said that Gail got to a point where Gail blamed Sydney. You want to have the whole, well, you weren't in New York. Gail could have blamed Sydney's absence, caused Dewey's death in a sense. Just being that broken.
Yeah, and then also
I
too,
feel like,
just going back to 6, her boyfriend's death, right?
yes,
Cause that's where she was almost
yes,
killed, right? Cause she never
yes,
stops to say, well, this is what happened to me in New York, and I almost died, Sydney. She never says something like that. You would think that after the
yeah,
interview, she would have said that, but no, it's just, oh well, Dewey, blah blah blah, and pop some pills and that's it, right? That's the moment you get.
exactly.
Okay, whatever.
And I feel like Courtney Cox would absolutely kill it as a villain at this point. It would have been so cool to see Gail was Ghostface at this point. Maybe it might have pissed some people off. But I feel like sometimes you gotta be willing to swing for the fences. You're 7 movies deep at this point. You have to come with something so unexpected it would shake up the zeitgeist. It would shake up the fandom,
Agreed.
and it would and going forward, it would make everybody know that wait a minute, we can't trust anybody. It would put in that level of paranoia where you really don't know who is for you and who's against you at that point. Not these dumbass red herrings that the creepy guy from next door, his
Yeah,
obviously unhinged
and the
mother,
weirdo neighbor all of a sudden.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. The minute that he loves true crime, so what? I know he's not the killer. I know that. And can we talk about that stupid thing he did where there's a killer in the kitchen? She is telling you, let's run. And you're
And
like,
he's like,
no,
wait,
I
wait, wait,
got
hold on,
this.
hold on, hold on, hold on. I'll be back.
You,
I'll be back. I like
you don't even
internally,
have a weapon in your
and
hand.
he just
What
runs
are you
inside.
doing?
In my head, internally, I was like, what are you doing? He just run
I was like, that's
and
the whitest thing I've ever seen in my
and
life.
listen, some sloppy writing, right? They try to set up that he actually has the hots for Chloe, right? That's the girl's name, right? So she come out, right?
Yes.
She get hit, right? He's like, wait, no, I'm gonna go in. He comes back, he get hit too. Like, what?
Yeah, that was the dumbest thing. The door was right there. So that I'm not gonna lie. That for me was probably the nail in the coffin at that point in the movie for me, where I was like, okay, this is not Scream. This is just another generic horror movie because Scream, from the very beginning, one of the things that was so cool about Scream was we had people fighting tooth and nail. Like, I don't even know how considering Ghostface is human, um, did not end up limping and stuff like that the next day because everybody fought back. in a really big way. And I thought that was so cool because prior to that in horror movies, nobody fights back when they're being stalked. They run, they trip, they fall, they get killed, that sort of thing. They brought that back here. We see Tatum falling over herself, not doing her mother. How many times her mother had to tell her, shoot them in the head, you know? And
Yeah, exactly.
it was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Well, I love Joel McHale, but I don't know how James survived. I think his name was James or whatever his name, Mark. Mark? I don't know how Mark survived the amount of stab wounds, just because Nev Campbell says I think she says to Gail in the beginning, Sydney tells Gail that he's really hard to kill. Her
Right.
husband.
Yeah.
He's really hard to kill. That's supposed to now make me be like, oh, this guy just got stabbed in the chest like 7 times, but he's somehow still alive. Make it make sense.
Last but certainly not least, let me talk about the elephant in the room himself, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
I had to talk about this guy, right? We're still spoiler territory, folks, right? So,
Yes.
all right. So, for those who saw the moment, who saw the scene, you'll know what I talk about, right? For those who just don't care, they just want to hear how bad it is. This picture is for a moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guy gets stabbed about 6 times, right? And it's grim. It's nasty, right? And the scene just fades to black, right? And the next scene is a curfew, and everybody is leaving work early and going home, right? Swear to God, the way how that was cut, I thought time passed and Mark was dead. And
Yep.
Woodsboro was in fear because we don't know who's going to get hit next, right? And I just watched this scene like, okay, time passed, right? But then they touch on the interview, and then you saw the kids go into what's her face? The girl Chloe's dad's pizzeria, right? All that kind of stuff, right? In my head, I tell myself, oh, so time passed and whatever, right? Whatever. Because I did wonder, like, how come Tatum is saying nothing about Mark, well, her father? How come, Sydney is saying nothing about Mark? Nobody said anything, right? I just watch this scene, I watching Ghostface do thing and chaos, and actually it's missed opportunity here, right? So Tatum is out the street and she's yelling for help, but nobody's around because everybody's home, right? Yes, it's very cool and inspired, I get it, I understand, right? But that was a great moment. They could have capitalized on that. Yes, the last 2 films could have probably touched on that, but whatever, right? But yeah, point is, you gave the impression that time passed there, but like all of a sudden, because Sydney got attacked and some people got killed in the process. Yes, there was that one girl who was at the theater, right? I understand that, right? Now all of a sudden there's this sudden curfew, right? But again, the way how the show was cut, how it's framed now, it make it out as if Mark was dead. So I wasn't really thinking about it. I was just there like, how come nobody bringing up Mark? How come nobody bringing up Mark? How come in the interview they never mentioned him, right? And it's only when they had to return, when Sydney's called back to the house by the killers now, that's when they decide to drag Mark's body out. And I realized, wait, now all this happened in the course of a day? What?
Yes. The sense of this movie, sense of time is terrible.
Terrible.
Right?
What is
It's
that?
like, how does a curfew pass that quickly?
Yes.
Do you understand? You have to go through all kind of discussions on some before town would have a curfew.
Yeah.
Even if, yes, somebody died brutally, but they don't close off an entire town like that. But let's talk about something else here. Mark is supposed to be the sheriff.
That's why I thought with the whole curfew thing in the first place. I thought it's because he died. That's why they set it in the first place. But
how is the sheriff missing and nobody goes to the house to check on them? Knowing everything that's going on, the actual sheriff of the town is not responding to any calls because from what I understand, when police are on call, you have to check in, you have to radio in a certain amount of let's say every half an hour. Let's just say that. So nobody's hearing from the sheriff and nobody finds that suspicious in a town where people are being brutally murdered. Make it make sense.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. And last point I'll
right?
make before we wrap up here now, and that unfortunately brings up the thing that I try to be reasonable about when it comes to these movies, but especially with 5 and 6, it's like, okay, why are we still doing this, right? Yeah, characters being stabbed very brutally in the stomach and surviving. That what happened to Gail in part
Yeah.
6, and she's alive. Okay,
That's what happened
she
to
has nerve
Chad
damage.
in the
Okay,
last one.
yeah,
Chad,
Chad, same
yes.
thing. Mindy,
Chad
same
was
thing.
stabbed by two people, brutally stabbed at least a dozen times.
Yeah,
And Chad is walking around and laughing and giggling like nothing happened. Shouldn't
yeah.
Chad have a bunch of nerve damage? How is Chad
Thank you.
able to hold a heavy ass camera?
I don't know,
How?
and yes, I know Mindy made a joke in the last one, like, oh, I'm high off of painkillers, but yeah, because she got stabbed. Okay, that made for a good joke, but I think if I'm not mistaken, she got stabbed again, right? I think like once or twice, and she's
Yeah.
still walking. Like,
Yeah, she got slashed in the stomach in
Right.
this one, and Chad, I think, got knocked out, which was another weird thing. They were basically left alive in the kitchen.
Yep.
And the movie continues, and we don't see them till the very end.
Yeah.
So how did they get to a hospital? Who called for help? Why were they left alive? Why did Ghostface go back into the kitchen and finish them? None of it makes any sense. This feels like it was written by somebody who's never seen a Scream movie, but you describe a Scream movie to them, so they write a script based on your description.
That's right.
It's all very loosely put together, and it's just a lot of wasted opportunities. You have Matthew Lillard back as Stu. He's a fan favorite, but you turn him into AI.
Yeah.
You have the premise of a mother and daughter. I mean, say all the issues I may have with the Halloween Rebirth remake. I think that was 2018. David Gordon Green's Halloween, which I like the first movie. I detest the second one.
And the third one is worse. Wow.
And the third one is just, I try to pretend the third one doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But the first one, that whole premise of generational trauma.
Yes.
That was
great.
so well done in that movie. That was so well done. And they show you what happens. You don't prepare them. And then this happens. And so that daughter was completely unprepared for what to expect, unlike her mother and that sort of thing. They could have tapped into something like that here with Sydney and Tatum. They could have done that here, Instead, it's all about the kill. It's all about getting to the kill. You don't care how you do it. You don't care how messy it is. You just want to show, oh, check out this cool kill we came up with. So it's absolutely the worst. And it's one of those things where Ghostface, for me, as much as I like Scream movies, Ghostface for me as a killer, I've always found it quite ridiculous. Like, how do you see through that mask properly? How do you run with this big, long cloak? How are you not tripping over your own feet? But I'm always willing to forgive all of that because Ghostface has always come across as a killer who plans. Everything is planned out. Everything is pretty smart. I like, we talk about the stalks and the kills. One of the ones I really like, the stalking scene was, as you said, was in the house when, Sydney and Tatum are in the wall. I thought that was really cool. That's the Ghostface I know. You're kind of thinking things through, and at one point I even thought, hey, I wonder if they're going to kill Sydney here and Tatum has to take over. I kept hoping they would give me something new. And I kept coming up with premises better than anything this movie was offering me.
Wow.
And by the end of it, I was just left completely, I wouldn't say upset, just disappointed. Just really disappointed by the end result.
Yeah. Yeah, so as we wrap up here, right? So listen, like it's cool that Scream is turning 30 this year, and yes, we will be talking about it, God willing, in 6 Years Deep, right? And I could tell that this is what Paramount was capitalizing on, right? So they could possibly, not possibly, they will definitely, right, release all 7 of these films in one big box set, right? And yeah, I could tell you one time, summer, that there will be screenings galore, marathons galore, even fans will just go to the homes and watch it, right? But trust me, right? And I'm all for that. I am all for like running these films from start to end, right? From the first one to now,
Yes.
to this one here. Trust me, when that seventh one comes, people will either like, when it comes to like the marathons themselves, right? Yeah, people will either tune out of it, fall asleep, or just leave the room or leave the house and just go elsewhere, right? But if you are a
Yeah.
completionist, I would say get. I just say this because I know it's not out as yet, but I know it's going to come out very soon, right? But yeah, this could have been so much better, especially due to the fact of that anniversary that I mentioned before, right? Yes, it's way December, but still, it's a milestone when it comes to like horror movies in general, right? But yeah, they really could have put so much more thought and effort into this. I know that, characters leave and whatnot, but still, they really could have thought this out way more, man. Instead of, like, trying to capitalize on the whole Scream 30th anniversary thing, they really should have just waited till they came up with a better story and then do that, right? But no,
Yeah.
it's Paramount. It's Sky Glass. They wanna act as if, oh well, Melissa and Jenna missed out, so we're gonna show them that we could tell a Scream story without them. I'm sorry, but they were like two of the best things about the last two films, and y'all just got rid of
Yeah,
them, right?
they probably watched this and sit there just laughing their asses off at how terrible this turned out.
Of course, yeah, of course, right? But yeah, I think we talked long enough about this. This is one of the biggest letdowns of this year, horror or otherwise, right? So for me, I'm gonna give this a strong 2 out of 5. Yeah, I want back my money. I want my money back. I spent my money on this, and I want it back. I'll close this, right? I heard through the grapevine that this might be coming out next month, or say late, like the end of this month, actually, if I'm not mistaken, right? Which is
Yeah.
interesting because now I feel like I should have just waited till then to watch this, right? But I tell
Yeah.
myself, listen, like
Yeah.
people are
I
talking
agree.
about it. It's like the show. It's out right now. Let me just see it for myself. That was me. It was one of those curiosity kills the cat kind of scenarios. I just had to see how bad it is
Yeah.
because I went in, knew it was going to be bad, but I didn't know it was going to be that bad in the sense of just being so uninspired. So I don't know, boy, just tired, boy, just so lethargic, right? It's a shame, right? I mean, it's been 20 years, but there's always been ghastly tank, man. I don't know what happened here, right? But yeah, here's hoping that at least Scream 8 will at least redeem the franchise and end the franchise. End things off at an even 8, man, because I mean 4 was meant to be the end, right? And then 5 kickstarted the back, right? Ended at 8, because y'all had an opportunity with 7 to kind of close the whole series off, but no, they dropped the ball, right? So now it's 8, right? And I really am not looking forward to any more Scream films after this. I think the first one said what it is they had to say, and the other films as well too, right?
Yeah.
But this one just had nothing to say, which is baffling though by Scream standards. So yeah, who'd have thought though,
True.
in a franchise that pays tribute to other horror franchises that have had mediocre entries in them, yeah, we actually had a mediocre entry in this franchise here. We actually had a generic by the numbers and forgettable entry in this particular franchise, right? So who'd have thought? Who'd have thought that it would have taken us 30 years to reach this point, right? But yeah, here we are. So right, Summer, your final thoughts and rating on Scream 7.
Well, I wish I had a heads up like you. This was one of those times where my policy of not looking at trailers and not checking out reviews prior to seeing something I want to see, it worked against me because I went into this pretty hyped for it, and I
Well,
left
I didn't
very
watch any reviews,
disappointed.
I just saw I glimpsed at one,
Of some
and it was
feedback
a
and
1.5 out
right.
of 4. I was like,
Oh my goodness.
yeah. That was all. That was all.
Right. For me, I would not be surprised. You mentioned a possibility of Scream 8. I wouldn't be surprised, one, to see this, well, go to streaming next week. Because, they have a habit now when these things fail like they do in cinema. You very, very quickly see it streaming. I do wish that I had waited. Two, I would not be surprised if Scream 8, they throw all the money at Melissa and Jenna to get them back in. Because, they never learn the right lessons. I would only hope that they would look at what, maybe really critically look at why this didn't work and course correct. Because if I have a funny feeling they're trying to make it to 10. I know you're saying they should end it at 8. I would not be surprised if they're trying to make it to 10, to give us that Scream X sort of thing. Um, I would not mind them I wouldn't mind seeing them do one more movie just to clean this up. Um, but I honestly, if I was to tell you where they should go with it, besides my idea of Gail becoming a villain, like I feel like we need to see like one of the OG characters become the villain, and the only person I can think of that fits something like that logically is Gail. Outside of that, I would hate to see this particular franchise end on such a sour note, because it was one of those franchises where I remember, I think I said this in a past review, that there's never been a bad Scream movie. There's been really good ones and there have been mediocre ones, but I've never seen a bad Scream movie. And now here comes number 7 to prove me wrong. So yeah, for me, this is like a 5 out of 10. And I'm being very generous with that 5 just because there are things here. Like I said, I did think the stalking scenes were well done. I did feel like Neve Campbell was giving it what she could as Sidney Prescott. Um, there are moments here that you see a flash of possibility and then it's sucked out of the room, unfortunately. So it's 5 for me is like what I would call my average. I say a movie is very average. I give it a 5. I would give this a 5 out of 10. I'm leaning more towards 4.5, but it's still, the quality is there in terms of the way it looks and that sort of thing. So I'll just round it off to a 5 out of 10. But that is by far the lowest score I've ever given a Scream movie. And that includes 2 and 3. And because I found things entertaining and I found smart things and characters that I like and dialogue that I like in all those other Scream movies. This movie, there is so much wasted potential that I just have to give it my lowest score for something like this, which is a 5 out of 10.
Right. One more thing, slash one more spoiler, right? I forgot to mention this, right? That whole moment when Sydney came in and, she was just seeing the, almost like a tour of the home, basically, but this is like the excuse to show the AI legacy characters, right?
Yes, the homage to the killers. Yeah.
Yeah, listen, I not even the biggest, like I knew the actors, but I had to remember, oh, this person, that person, but boy, that was just
Yes.
so
2 and 3 and
it's one of those, why are we doing this moment? That's what it was. Why are we doing this?
Here's
Why are
what
we
I
doing
found
this?
weird about that whole thing. Here's where I find I rolled my eyes when that happened for one very simple reason. Why would they be old? No disrespect to the actors, right? But why would you, if you're using AI to mock her, all of these people died while they were younger. So why are the characters looking like they would look in 2026? I
Right.
understand
Well.
why
David Arquette
I
could
understand
slide.
with
He could
Stu.
slide. Oh gosh, the lady who plays
Yes, Stu
Nancy,
makes
she could
sense
slide
because
too.
you're trying to convince me that Stu is alive. So that makes sense. But like, I'm trying to remember his name. Is it Foley? The actor who played, well, he was her brother. He was her illegitimate brother, and he was the killer in Scream 3. It's like Scott. I think it's Scott Foley.
Scott Foley. Yeah.
Why? Right. Why are they being presented as they are now in real life with AI? If I am using AI to mess with someone, because at which point she has already figured out that it's AI. She's figured it out. So you'll be like, oh, am I here or am I this person or am I that person? Wouldn't they look exactly like they did when they died?
Yeah, I
I
mean
was like,
they
what is
used
this?
deepfake before with Skeet
Right.
Ulrich.
It didn't make
God.
any sense. And as you mentioned Skeet, it's so funny you mentioned Skeet. Skeet was saying that he was under the impression that the 3 movies, like with the newer characters, they were going to do a sort of trilogy and close it off where Melissa's character, Sam, would eventually snap. Biscuit being her dad. We saw elements of it in Scream 5 and Scream 6.
Yes, correct.
Where she was basically fighting her darker impulses. And the idea, I guess, was she would become Ghostface. And I guess Jenna would have to take her out. And that could have been interesting. That could have been really interesting. But of course, what happened happened. So again, like I say, there are all these ideas that to me would work so much better in the universe of Scream. Whereas instead we get what feels like you could slap any other title on this, switch out the killer, and we would never know this is a Scream movie. You know what I mean? They could have called this AI the movie.
You know?
It would have been the same movie.
Yeah. Oh well, so yeah, back to the drawing board. Yes, back to the drawing board indeed. Man. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.